Hey, what's up, everybody? This is your boy Kenny, and this is Unsung Season 9, and this is the episode on Kurupt. Now, I, for one, am definitely a huge Kurupt fan, and I definitely love him as an actor. I mean, the guy's a phenomenal talent, and it's great that Unsung has finally done an episode dedicated to him. Uh, they actually start off where even Snoop Dogg said that he will put, Kurupt up against anybody and Kurupt will annihilate them. So that was actually pretty interesting because him and Snoop, have been friends way before they both, way before either one of them were put on. Him and Snoop were really close. Also, that they also, talk about, his what happened on death row and his financial issues, and then also his battle with alcoholism. Um, and the one thing that he said that I definitely made a quote of, which is very profound, and it's definitely a testament to everyone who's trying to reach success or prosperity or trying to, really make it. This is a life lesson that we all should definitely take heed to, is that he pretty much says that you can have all the money in the world without anybody to share it with, it's really nothing. So I think that was like very key to how he thinks and how he is as a man. That yeah, he loves the glitz, he loves the glam, he loves the accolades, but he's more about friends, he's more about family, and he's more about true bonding with others. And he's pretty much in that statement saying that without a true connection of people, money doesn't mean a damn thing. So I think that is very important because sadly we live in a society where people put money above everything, and to actually hear this profound artist say that, look, money ain't everything, because without people to share it with, who gives a shit how much money you have? So I thought that was very cool, and it was also great too because you actually had artists like Kendrick Lamar, who is plainly obvious that Kendrick Lamar was a very big Kurupt fan and probably one of his biggest inspirations. And it was cool to see Kendrick Lamar commenting on Kurupt's vocal ability and how he was able to bring this lyrical element to his rhymes, and how he was pretty much like pretty much like this real like this real how he was like this real aggressive storyteller, and how he actually was able to groove to the music. And he can not only give you a really hardcore hip hop track, but can also give you that slow groove that you get with R&B. And he says only the best could pull that off. And you can definitely hear that also with Kendrick Lamar too. Like, I really kind of see elements of Kurupt in Kendrick Lamar. So it's like, yeah, you can definitely see that, Kendrick Lamar growing up, Kurupt was definitely one of his biggest influences. And pretty much I think it was Kendrick Lamar who pretty much said that, that Kurupt was like the Kobe Bryant of death row. He definitely was one of those key elements that really made death row what it was. This was, before Tupac even got on the label. Kurupt, was one of those established artists that really brought, great artistry to that label. Well, it also goes into his upbringing. His actual real name is Ricardo Brown Jr. He's from Philadelphia. His mom was a nurse, and his father was worked for a phone company, and they were very steeped in church. So that's where he, first got his connection to music, was growing up in church. And he kind of even talks about how his mother said, like, you joining the choir, and then he says, oh, you didn't do what she said, you got your ass whipped. So he was like, oh, okay, me. I thought that was pretty cool. He said, like, look, his mama didn't play around. And they also talk about like in the 80s, the hip hop, how the rise of hip hop, influenced him because you heard it everywhere. Um, and then he also talks about these cats, Skinny G. I'm sorry, not Skinny. I mean Skippy G and Grand B, who were his major influences in Philly. That he wanted to be like these guys because he would see them in shows and would see them do their thing, and he wanted to emulate them. But then he also one of his biggest influences as well was Rakim. He wanted Rakim's style. Rakim definitely has that real epitome of style. I mean, especially like with like Paid in Full and his whole get up. I mean, Rakim is still like one of the gods of hip hop to this day. So I definitely see that element in Kurupt as well, especially in his days with Death Row, and then also when he established his own label and became an artist. I definitely saw that style and that swag. So that was actually really amazing to see, and actually know that one of his influences was also Rakim. He also talked about like when he used to write rhymes a lot, and that he was like very lyrical when he used to write his rhymes a lot, and his mother would actually tear his rhymes up. But thinking that it was gonna actually stop him, it just made him more determined, and he would just write more. And it got to the point where his parents had divorced, and his father moved out to Los Angeles, and when him and his mother got into this conversation, I think she got a broom to beat him, and he took the broom and he broke it. She's like, okay, you need to go live with your daddy. So he went to go live with his father, but but pretty much, even though he was around his father, he still had issues because of the fact that all he wanted to do was rhyme and rap. That was what he wanted to do. And that's something that, I think sometimes people misinterpret at times, because they think, oh, you're just not taking life seriously. That's really, in a way, you showing that you have a gift and that you have something that's unique. And when you really, and it's like, I think I've heard it somewhere else, that when you wake up in the morning, if that's the first thing you think about, that's who you are. So if you think about the first thing as far as writing or rap or whatever it is, that's who you are. So at an early age, Kurupt knew who he was. And it didn't always, it wasn't always understood by everybody around him. Because his father had told him that he needed to get a job, and then when he didn't get a job, his father put him out, which led him to move to South Central, where he became even more ingrained into the hip-hop scene. And he was saying that, the streets kind of welcomed him, and he learned a lot from the streets. He learned a lot from the people there. While in South Central, he actually meets Kevin DJ Battlecat, who he's still very close friends with to this day. And he pretty much kind of took Kurupt under his wing. And and another thing that Kurupt would also do was do a lot of battle rapping. So he became really well known, in a lot of these different circles, because he was a very good battle rapper. And it was doing this is where he met Snoop. And Snoop was a lot older than him, but Snoop was fascinated by him because he said that he would battle my homies, and he like annihilated like 5 of his friends before him and Kurupt battled. And he said that the thing that he liked about Kurupt was that Kurupt was pretty much like was a fierce competitor, in that he would not stop. He was not going to stop until he got you. So within that, they end up becoming very fast friends, and they're pretty much close like brothers to this day. And they pretty much promise each other that if one of them gets put on, they'll get the other one. And it was vice versa. So they had each other's backs, which I thought was very awesome. Pretty much the one who ended up getting put on first was Snoop, of course. Him being on the him working with Dre, and he also brought Kurupt along, and I think it was at Dre's birthday party where Kurupt actually on the spot did this rap for Dre for his birthday. And they pretty much, you know, gave him the green light right then and there, and from there on, his career began to take off. Kurupt actually, you know, was on the Chronic album with Dr. Dre, and then he was, but then what really put him out there was him being on Doggy Dog World on Snoop Dogg's album. And I remember that, and I remember the video, and I definitely remember Kurupt being on that song, because Doggy Dog World was like the shit. I mean, it definitely gave you that hip hop feel, but it also gave you that old school R&B and you know, old school disco feel too. You know, and you know, hearing like, you know, Kurupt on that track was everything, because he had a totally different flow. But it's like, it was kind of like, you know, the Yang to Snoop. You know, Snoop had a flow, but then Kurupt had a totally different flow, but they worked together, even though they were completely different. And I think Kurupt was 16 at the time. That shocked me, because I didn't know he was that young, but I definitely remember the video, remember Kurupt doing the scene. And, you know, he's in this video with greats like Fred Williamson, Pam Grier, Fred Berry of What's Happening fame. I mean, can you talk about a great launching pad to put your career out there? And that really got him known, and it just went up from there. And pretty much, Kendrick Lamar even admitted that, yeah, that, you know, Kurupt was one of his biggest inspirations, which is real, because I actually see elements of Kurupt in Kendrick Lamar, as I said before. And then also, he learned a lot from both Dre and Snoop. You know, Dre was like a teacher, but then Snoop was like a mentor, you know, like a big brother to him. So, and then while they were forming the Dog Pound, you know, him and Daz, who was another artist on Death Row, they became very close friends, and they're still very close to this day as well. They did the album Dog Food, and around the time they released that album is when the infamous, you know, situation at the Source Awards happened with when Suge Knight went on stage and he openly dissed Puffy, you know, in New York City. You know, he's pretty much saying that any other artists who want to stay a star and don't have to worry about the executive producer trying to be all in your videos, which caused a big stir there, because on that album they had this track called New York, New York, which was actually paying homage to New York. But then after that happened, they said that they were on a video shoot, and it was actually a shootout. You know, so they were actually shot at while they were filming this video in New York. So pretty much they changed their tune to it. They still kept the same content, but then the video pretty much showed them knocking over New York buildings and all of that shit. So it's like they were at first paying homage to New York, but then they end up dissing New York because they didn't get that love back from New York, especially after that whole Source Awards event happened. You know, the whole relationship to the East Coast completely changed. And, you know, of course, it actually led to, you know, losing some of the two greatest artists of all time, that being Tupac Shakur as well as the Notorious B.I.G. But I can actually say I remember that song New York, New York, because I remember used to watch that video a lot on Rap City at the time, and I remember like Kurupt's verse on it was epic, and his vocal delivery is just amazing. But then they also talk about on this album Dog Food is the song Let's Play House, and that was a song that I used to love. I used to see the video all the time. I used to always hear it on the radio, and it was pretty much Kurupt and Daz who pretty much, you know, the Dog Pound, and they had Nate Dogg as well as Michelet on the song, and that song still rocks to this day. I don't give a damn what nobody say. I love that track. And he said from doing that, you know, Kurupt said from that point, he said he knew he was a star. He's like, I'm a star now, you know, because, you know, doing Let's Play House really gave them a lot of, you know, mainstream appeal, and they were everywhere performing that song, you know. So I was like, yes, because that song brings back a lot of memories. And I remember I used to always jam every time that song came on because Death Row was really doing his thing, at that time. And Kurupt, Daz, Snoop, Lady of Rage were like right there in the center of it all, making it all possible. And another thing is that even though like the Dog Food album from the Dog Pound, even though it's an iconic album and it had a lot of great musical content on it, and only sold 2 million copies. And that was not because of them. It was because of the political climate, with C. Lawrence Tucker and Al Sharpton, where they're leading like this anti-hip-hop campaign, trying to, saying that rap was demeaning to women and that it was harmful to children and, all, pretty much, giving rap a bad name. So because of that, it actually hurt their album sales, but it didn't actually hurt the popularity of that album, and it actually didn't hurt, because they sold 2 million copies, so they did get some sales, but that album could have sold far more if it wasn't for that political climate at that time, and it's unfortunate because both Daz and Kurupt are very talented brothers, and these guys, they both, work very well together, and that Dog Food album was a shit. I'm not gonna front. I definitely used to crank that. And definitely Let's Play House is my shit. Even to this day, I love that song. And pretty much after the death of Tupac, Death Row began to decline rapidly, and Kurupt ended up leaving Death Row, by declaring bankruptcy. So what he did is that he ended up going back to Philly. He created his own label, Intro Records, and started putting out his own music, and was getting on the charts and was doing his thing. And it was good to see Kurupt, taking matters into his own hands. And it's very important because he's really showing his acumen and intelligence as a businessman. That even though he was dealt a blow, he went out and he made his own way. And I think he became even a greater success because he went out on his own and made it on his own, and created a way out of no way. And those are the stories that we like to hear, and those are the stories that we definitely that we definitely relate to in more ways than one. I know that song "We Can Freak It." "We Can Freak It" was the shit, and they said that it pretty much crossed, in the R&B, hip hop, and pop charts. So it was a really good track, and he did and he pretty much just put his all into it, and also another track, "Who Ride With Us" with Daz, that was another big hit for him as well. So after Death Row, we actually see that Kurupt has literally taken his career in his own hands, but yet his vocal delivery as well as his music actually got a lot better, and he was at the helm of it all. He was the man behind it all, and it was good to see him in that light where he became. He pretty much, became the master of himself. And I definitely, for myself, I respect that. Where you can actually master your own destiny and pretty much master your, not only your business, but also your creativity. So that was cool. They also go into about his relationship with Foxy Brown, where they were engaged, and it pretty much got back that she was actually having an affair with DMX. And he creates this diss track where he goes in on both of them. And he says that, and I found this very profound too, where he said that, look, if you have an issue with someone, let it be known. So that's what he did. He said he let it be known he had an issue with DMX, and he had an issue with Foxy because Foxy was messing around on him. But after him and Foxy broke up, he ends up, dating Natina Reed, who was a member of the R&B group Black. And they actually have a really big hit together, which is actually a song that I still remember to this day. It's called "It's Over Now." I mean, and it's cute because it was kind of like, Natina in the video is kind of like mocking at Foxy's, like, it's over, it's my turn now, and it's like, and you see her flash in the ring because they were engaged as well, and they also end up having a son named Trail, and not Trail, named Trent. My bad, my best, but people, and from the looks of it, you would think they were going to be a great couple, but then, eventually their careers kind of separated them, and they ended up going their separate ways. But unfortunately, due to tragedy, Natina was actually killed, while being hit by a car while walking. And actually, a friend of mine doesn't live too far from where that accident took place. But that really, that really was very a heartbreaking time for him, as well as a tragic time for him and his son, of course. And and also he also paid for her funeral. So even though they had, went their separate ways, he still had love for her, because she was, not only the mother of his son, but they actually had a good connection at one point. And once you establish a real connection, even if the connection doesn't last, elements of the connection will always remain intact. But he definitely did take her death hard. And I even remember I was even shocked when I found out about it, because I was definitely a big fan of Black, and also a fan of hers as well. Because she definitely kind of had that swag like Left Eye of TLC. She was not only a great vocalist, but was also a great lyricist as well. Like, girl could spit. But rest in peace to Natina. And it was cool that they actually touched on that, about his relationship with her, because it really kind of showed, his passion to really want to connect with someone, and not just be all about just smashing, but really about having like a real loving connection. And he definitely had that with Natina. Just unfortunately it didn't last, and unfortunately that's life. But then also after a while, Suge, pretty much, came back into the picture and wanted to get Kurupt back on death row, and he actually offered him the role as vice president on death row. And I actually remember seeing him on 106 in Park, back in the day when AJ and Free was hosting. And Suge Knight was there and was talking about Kurupt being there. You can just look in Kurupt's face. Kurupt was not fucking happy. He was not happy at all to be back on death row. And it also, him being back on death row caused friction between his relationship with Snoop Dogg as well as his relationship with Daz, because they had by the time left the label, and they left under tumultuous circumstances, and for him to go back there. But at the time, Kurupt needed the money. He had to fold his label, and he was kind of going through some tough times. So someone comes and gives you an opportunity, you're gonna kind of like jump at it. But Kurupt pretty much even said that that it was probably not the best decision. But at that time he did go back to death row, but then eventually he did leave, and he left for good. And plus, while he was there, he's like he really wasn't happy because he lost his friends, and it just kind of shows you the kind of way he thinks. He's like, he puts friends and family above financial gain, and he was saying that it was crazy that I had this great position, but I didn't have my friends, so me having this position didn't really mean shit to me. So after he left death row, he gets back with Daz and Snoop, and they do like Cali's Active, and that was a really hot track, which is still a good classic. In 2007, he married Javon, who pretty much is like his business manager, and she's pretty much like the bad cop to his good cop, which I think is great. As I mentioned, like, he's a great actor. I've seen him in, movies with Ja Rule, and I've even and like, I just definitely see that, Kurupt is just like so well rounded, and that's a great quality to have, because he says that acting is like his second love. And also, they also talk about his battle with alcoholism, and how Snoop even got to the point where he told him that, look, you either, get this drinking under control, or, you can't roll with me no more. So when he realized that he was going to be losing his friends, losing his family and all that, he now has it under control. I mean, he still drinks, but he doesn't. But he's kind of gotten it where he manages it. He manages it a lot better, which is good. I mean, and it's not about us being perfect, but actually us being better and being wiser with our decisions. And Kurupt is definitely an example of that. So. And also you got to see in this episode that he's a really loving father. He has 5 children, and he's very active in their lives. And it's great to show that there are great black men out here. And I really feel that great black men should get showcased a lot more, because it can actually inspire some black men who are struggling to say that, look, I can be better too. I can actually grow and prosper as well. And regardless of my circumstances, I can always rise above it. And to see him interacting with his kids, it was really cool. His daughters were talking great about him. His son, Trent, the son he had with Natina, who's also, he's pretty much, he lives with his grandmother, but he says his father comes in there and he, gets them together. So that was also great to see. So that's my review for Unsung, episode of Kurupt. Subscribe to my channel. Leave comments below. Like this video. Share this video. And I'll definitely be back next week with another episode of Unsung. And I will definitely, and again, thank you guys for your support, and thank you guys for sticking with me through everything. And I want to continue to give you guys great content, and continue to give you guys, I just want to make sure I'm definitely going to keep you guys, posted, and keep you guys updated on a lot that's going on. So until then, take care.